I think we can clap a little more enthusiastically for these wonderful people. Thank you, Aaron. I knew you were going to be inspired to play that song. That's an oldie but goodie for sure. Whew, love it. All right, well, good morning, everybody, and good morning to everyone online. I want to acknowledge Bob Corpin because Bob is here today doing both audio and video so that you at home who can't be here physically with us can still be a part of this service. And it's a pretty big deal to go in between both the audio and the video. So I'd like an acknowledgement to Bob and speedy recovery to Amy, who helps Bob out quite a bit. It's a wonderful thing. So my heart is certainly full today, so thank you in advance for knowing that as I go forward today. So we have themes here at the center, and last week I was here and I asked Reverend Don what the theme was for March, and he said authenticity. And I had a very quick download. You know, I grabbed the piece of paper and I wrote down spiritual authenticity, and I was writing down these things that were coming through me, and I was like, oh my gosh, great, I already have my talk done. It's a week away. So yesterday, I finally got to those notes and did what I usually tend to do. I typed it up and looked up the words that I was going to be talking about today, authenticity, which of course just said, you know, the way of being authentic. All right, so you got to look up authentic. And I'm getting all this together, but I wasn't feeling it like I was feeling it a week ago. You know, it's just like, okay, what's going on here? So I'm rereading the things I wrote and kind of feeling into it, but it's just not there, you know? So I'm like, okay, well, let me look up some more words, and I do that, and then I typed spiritual authenticity into the search engine because I thought, well, maybe what other people are saying about this is going to help me say what I'm trying to figure out I want to say about this. But that, of course, did not work. And then the ego mind kicked in. You don't have a talk. It's not going to be a good talk. People aren't going to be inspired, right? Like, wow. So the good news is I did the same thing I always tell you to do. I put my hand on my heart, calmed myself down, and said, even though you don't see the usual preparedness that you like, mind of mine, as a measurement that it's going to be a good talk, I'm okay. My heart is in this, and it's going to be okay. It really wasn't, but I talked myself off the ledge, and doing that, I heard, call Kaleem. I'm like, right, call Kaleem. Kaleem, can you talk? I can't really talk right now. Too bad. I need you right now, you know. So we kicked it around a little bit, and he had actually gotten the same definition that I had just said to him, but he must have been looking for it as I was saying it, because then he repeated it, and I thought, oh my God, I am in such trouble right now. And then something happened in our discussion, and I said to him, you know, I guess the truth of the matter is that I'm still really affected by something that happened a couple of days ago. And in saying that out loud, I realized, and he said at the same time, well, that's your talk. Because for me to be authentic, you know by now, I have to talk about what's happening. I have to talk about what's going on. Title or no title, I have to be real to the moment, because that's my authentic self. And I thought, wow, isn't that really something? Here I am trying to put a talk together about authenticity, only to be given the experience of my own authenticity that was necessary for me to give a talk about authenticity. So this week, and it's a confidential experience, so I'm going to say it very generically, yet it's completely universal. This week I witnessed and held space for the release of someone's lifelong pain that came from their separation from their authentic self. And I know we all know what that is. And as I held space and grateful for my training and practices to bear witness to this moment without needing to do anything, I was also profoundly sad, and I was heartbroken as I looked at, heard, and witnessed the pain that comes from believing that you are not enough. And the pain that comes from a lifelong external narrative that becomes an internal narrative that you are unworthy. Anybody have a sense of what I'm talking about? It oftentimes starts in our childhood, of course, when we quickly realize that who we are is not going to keep us safe. You know, or you're in perhaps abusive scenarios as a child, and your incredible creative mind goes, okay, we got to be different. We got to be anything but ourselves to survive this, to be safe, right? This is what happens, which is probably why the great teacher said, be ye like children. It's like, hello, I always like to say, the guy spoke in bullet points, pretty clear. You don't have to sit down for an hour and try to figure out what he was trying to say. But today we can understand why he was saying, be ye like children. Because before we become indoctrinated into the lies, we are pure, perfect, whole, and complete, joyful, peaceful, adventurous, playful, all of those things, our authentic self. But then the calcification comes, right? Over time. It happens out of our family situation. There's society reinforcing it, some religions reinforcing it. It doesn't take much for that story to take root and be fed for the majority of our first to 18 years and certainly beyond. And so this person that stood in front of me was showing me the collective pain that is up right now. I mean, I always go back to 2020 and 21, but I mean, that is it. Right? It's like we grow up and we hinge ourselves on the outer world of effects. And we buy into what society tells us is the right way, are the rules about how to live successfully, who you have to be, who you have to become to have that authentic self be rewarded in that world. And then all of a sudden, that world pulled a fast one on us. Didn't it? Boom, rug pulled out. Uh-oh, wait a second, what's going on right now? And so we've spent all this time, many of us, realizing privately and publicly and both, that outer source might not have had our best interest in mind. That outer source might have also been parroting a lie that they didn't know anything more to do with than retell it over and over and over and over again. And we have gone through this massive experience of self-re-examination, which is a good thing. Some people are successfully still avoiding it, and that's just miraculous to me, because I don't know about you, but this thing grabbed me by the throat, and you know, every once in a while still shakes me like a doll. Are you getting this? Are you getting this? I'm like, yes, I'm getting this. But that's the power of the transformational experience that we are in right now today, this very moment. You know, I've used that analogy before about the train coming around to the station. You can get on it or not. Maybe you're not ready to get on it. No worries, it comes back around again. Maybe you've dragged all your baggage to the train station, and by the time you get all the luggage on, it's pulled off. That's okay. Why? Because we're in a process of clearing, discarding what is no longer the truth of who we are. Deepak Chopra, quote, awakening is not changing who you are, but discarding who you are not. And it's painful to wake up to the realization that you've been separate and disconnected from your authentic self because you bought into the lie and the story that told you that you're unworthy, that you're not enough, that you can't be your authentic self. I think about those people who are gay in the religious community. When we first opened our doors, we had so many people who had been shamed by the church and by religion come here and sob every Sunday. Why? Because they were remembering who they really are And they were grieving that for all this time, they were disconnected from their authentic self. So for many of us, not all of us, but many of us had to abandon our authentic nature to be safe, to survive, and to follow the rules of authority. I'm happy to say that's over. That's over. I don't know about you, but I have been very successfully pulling myself out of as many structures and systems and external organizations as possible, because that ship is going down. It has to, by the nature of evolution, okay, by the weight of its old archaic ways, and by the simple act of evolution. That's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to change. We're not supposed to remain stagnant. And that is what is happening right now. I don't want myself to get information about who I am from a world that has lost its mind and has lost its heart. So I want to just encourage you to know that if you find yourself in this place, you are not alone. There are millions of people right now waking up to this truth, going through the grieving process that doesn't have to take a long time. I always like to remind myself and you, we don't have to spend as much time healing as it took for it to become the wound. And that's the beauty of this spiritual community and our spiritual practices. We are waking up to the false persona we've been living. Now think about this. In your own experience, I don't care how old you are, where you come from, your past, none of that matters. In some way, in some degree, we have all awakened to this false persona that we've been living, that's been reinforced by social media, the news, society, your job, fill in the blanks. And so maybe instead of spiritual authenticity, like maybe my talk should have been something like, the road home. And yet, so many of us get excited about that. I'm going home to my true self. But it's like, do you know how to get there? I don't know how to get. Do you know how to get that? Who's got the map? Who am I following? Well, in the new design for living, look in the mirror. Because this is a personal, you got to do it yourself moment. Not to say you can't have support, because you can. This community is a support. Practitioners are a support. I'm going to talk a minute about how spiritual practices help us. But when you've lived so much of your life thinking that you needed to be someone else because who you are isn't enough to get the job done, the job being life, or when you've spent so much time being told you had to be someone else, or spent, so much of your adult life being told that, you're shamed by God. And your body is shamed by God. That's heavy stuff. And people are waking up left and right now. It's happening anywhere and everywhere. Why? Because when stuff is pressed down, pressed down, pressed down, pressed down, pressed down, guess what happens? Kaboom! In the car, at the job, in the store. It's happening. It's messy, but it's necessary. Why? Because we have awakened to this truth, that who we are turns out to be quite enough. But like I just said, if you don't know the way home, you have to first figure out how to get there. And then when you get there, you're like, right, now what? Like, hello, who am I? How do I do this? Kind of a thing. It can be really, really intense. How are we doing so far? Everybody okay? Take a breath. All right. So, no one can do this but ourselves, as it should be, because you want to have the experience like I had yesterday. I had an experience. I knew something wasn't right. Something wasn't aligned. When you have the experience that something isn't aligned, guess what? It's not aligned. Something is off. That's your heart telling you, we're not congruent here. Something is amiss. That way you always feel when you know you're in the flow before a talk, we're not having it yet. That was a real thing. And I'm glad that I did what I did because it led me to the experience of me going, oh, right. What I wrote a week ago was relevant a week ago, but too much has happened since then, and I got to talk about what's happening right now, because I know that when I was in the bathroom with that person for 55 minutes, holding a box of Kleenex, witnessing their complete and total breakdown because they were waking up to who they really are, and they were deep in the pain of who they were told they really are, only to find out that it is a lie. That changes you. That changes you. I don't know why I'm getting so incredibly, put into these human experiences, whether it was Paul, the homeless man, or now this person and I in this bathroom. But that stuff changes you, and I'm glad it's changing me because it's making me realize that the universal is always in the personal. If it's happening to this one person in this bathroom with me, it is happening somewhere else. That is for sure. So I'm kind of just peeling back the curtain today, reminding us we are in an evolutionary moment right here, right now. The train is coming. It's coming around again. Can you feel it? I can feel it. But you cannot get on the train with the lies. And so practitioners in your spiritual community and your spiritual practices and Reverend Don and anybody else, we are at the train station helping you unload the heavy baggage so that at the very least you get on with a carry-on. Like that great song, there's a train to come and people get on board. You don't need no ticket, just get on board. You don't need no baggage, just get on board. That's why the most important thing you can do is to understand the difference between your heart and your mind. Yesterday, I knew my mind was talking because I've spent enough time learning about how my mind works so that I can work with it and make sure that I have dominion over it when it's stuck in a narrative that is false and based on distorted thinking. The new design for living is about the heart. It's about the heart. So is it painful to turn towards yourself when you don't know who you are? Yeah, it can be. Reach out for help and support. Well, what if I lose it in the store or, at my job or something? Be completely and totally with yourself because only you know that you've called this up. You've called this up. We don't want to live that way anymore. We're done. It's over. We want to be free. We want to live the rest of our days, however many we have, in the skin of who we truly are and feel the enoughness of that. I wish that everyone can look in the mirror and see the gorgeous beauty and perfection of who they are and challenge any other narrative that might come back to them that makes them feel depressed. That's what's ours to do. And the grief. I had this experience a while ago, but I remember again, it was clean. I was new into the philosophy. Oh man. Whew. The classes are like a cauldron, that spoon. Man alive, it shakes stuff up. You got to be ready because it's like, whoa. And I was in deep and profound grief at the time, that night. I remember it because I realized the lies that my religious upbringing had told me. Not just about being worthy, every Sunday, Lord, I am not worthy to receive you. What do you think that's going to produce? A sense of unworthiness to receive God's love? Wow. Right? So every time we heal a little bit of this, guess what we're doing? We're healing the collective. I'm telling you, this is the time. Grab onto someone's hand and walk towards that new earth that everybody is talking about. Because in that new place, guess what? You're perfect. You're whole. You're complete. You hear the mind, how quick it goes? No, you're not. Mind always has a story. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It doesn't necessarily mean it's accurate. But only you can challenge your thinking. Like who's a Katie Byron, I think, that has that great 2 sentences when that stuff happens. Is that true? Ask yourself, is that true? And how do I know it's true? Evidence? Whose evidence? The more questioning you do, the weaker you see how that story really, really is. So the soul remembers, your soul remembers who you are. The heart knows that we are pretending to be something that we aren't. The heart has been so patient, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. All the time going, I'm right here, I'm right here. I know who you are. I have the way home. I've got all the furnishings you could ever need to furnish that new home that's called you. And that is part of the new design for living. We are no longer leading from the mind, we're leading from the heart. We're no longer valuing knowing, we're valuing feeling. How do I feel? Yesterday, I did not feel in that place I've had hundreds of times before, and I knew that I was off. And I set out to figure out what did I need to do to find that flow feeling again. And so when you get those hits, call this person, do those things, that's your heart giving you extremely clear instructions. But when you're disconnected from yourself, you're disconnected from your heart, and you tend to dismiss that because it's not coming from the value of the mind and thinking. But in the new design for living, feelings is where it's at. So spend some more time hanging out with your feelings and seeing what your heart is saying to you. We're entering this beautiful, powerful full moon right now. What a great time to do ritual and let it go. Let it go. Write down all the things that you believe that you now know are false. Light a flame to that sucker. Do some ritual. Clean it up. Have something external that mimics what you're feeling internally. Ritual is so very powerful. So the heart knows, and it loves unconditionally who we are. And that's kind of how, like when I was watching this person, you know, I realized, wow, that's kind of how it works. You think something enough times. Like when you're a kid, you can't challenge it, right? That's the challenge of that whole experience. It's not until we become adults, and maybe we just become adults, and in the process we realize things, or we have spiritual awakenings, or whatever it is for you, the agitator that wakes you up and makes you realize, oh my gosh, I've been walking around as somebody else my entire life. My job has forced me to be someone I'm not. I can't do it anymore. I'm in a friendship or a relationship that is no longer a match because I have so radically changed in the last 2 years. I'm not even the same person I was last week. The old skin can't hold the new wine. Things are changing. Relationships are ending. Friendships are ending. Do it with love. Do it with ritual. Do it with gratitude. It's okay. Some people aren't getting on the train. Some people, you know how it feels when you're at the airport and you say goodbye to somebody? You feel that thing in your heart? You're feeling it right now. Because some of the people we love the most that we want to travel with, they're not ready. Doesn't mean that's wrong or lesser. It just means it's not a match for where you're at. So some of the things that can do to help you reconnect with your authentic self is to get some prayer support today. And even if you're sitting here going, I got this one, Camille, I'm connected, I'm my authentic self, fantastic. Get some prayer anyway. Maybe for everybody else, or to have more and more of that feeling of yourself. But we are here, and we say it every Sunday, and I wait for the lines, because we would benefit extremely by praying right now. What is prayer? It is the reorganization of all this falseness, all these lies, on truth. So if you don't know how to start the journey home to yourself, let us help you. Prayer. Meditation, you know, I'm so grateful. 2017, I did 100 days of meditating for 100 days. An hour every day for 100 days. Guess what? It stuck. I'm so grateful that it stuck. It wasn't something I experienced and then I popped right back. No, the change was permanent. And I am so grateful because I learned things then, 4 years ago, that are still incredibly important right now. got so much to say because I have so much that I've experienced that I see other people experiencing. And if I can help shorten someone's journey to healing, then that's what I definitely want to do. Meditation. If you're separate from yourself, if you don't like yourself, if you hurt yourself, if you don't think you're worthy, if you don't think you should be here, if you're only here for other people, you're not going to like sitting still for very long. Why? Because you don't like yourself. You don't like the one you have to sit with. Guess what? Sit anyway. Sit anyway. And feel the discomfortable feelings, the uncomfortable feelings of that. Because guess what happens when you do that? You realize that's not you. That's why I always tell people, when you put your hand on your heart, what that's doing, it's bringing compassion to how you really feel. It's also giving a sense that that's not who you really are, because you're able to talk to it, approach it. You're able to bring something to it, which means it's not really you. These little things are very, very meaningful. You don't have to close your eyes when you meditate. It's very entertaining to sit still with your eyes open and fidget for the full 60 minutes. Like, wow. I'd rather have somebody poke me in the eye with a needle than sit by myself for 60 seconds. That's how it was for me in the beginning. Then I committed to an hour. Well, you've lost your mind. I hope so. I wanted to lose my mind. I had already lost my mind. That's when people say I've lost my mind. I'm like, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. Lose your mind and find your heart, because that's where you are, right here and right now. Not to dismiss the relevancy of when we do use our minds, but there is a mind greater than our mind. What mind do you think took those two planets, what were they, Saturn and Pluto, I think, and this conjunction that happened? So they were like this, they were like this, they were like this, and then on last Thursday, they were like this, right, going down international. I'm like, oh, look at that. Then they were like this. You know what that's called? An intelligence. You think that's just happening? No, there's a divine mind that we have access to. So if you're inspired today to clear the clutter, guess what happens? You make more and more room for those divine hits, that divine broadcast. You get to leave the density of the human experience and touch the upper realm. It is very sweet up there. And yeah, it took 100 days for me to touch the upper realm. And if I hadn't given my word to somebody, I would have bailed after the first day. That's how painful it was. But I stuck with it. I stuck with it. I stuck with it. And it took like I would say 2/3 of the way. It was still painful. I'm on day 66 going, when is this going to shift? You know what I'm saying? And then it did. And then all of a sudden, up I went. Whoa. Wow. Holy smokes. This is amazing. Not as real as I think this reel is. That's real. So spiritual practices. Meditation, prayer, visioning. What's visioning? Visioning, and you can go online, type in Michael Beckwith. He's got all sorts of things you can buy. Visioning is when you sit in a deep meditation, but you ask questions like, who am I? Prayer, help me know who I am. Put something in my path that reminds me. It waits for us to ask for its involvement in our lives. It's always right there, this intelligence that loves us and knows the way. But it's so cool, it won't do it until we invite it in. Invite it in. See what happens. And support. We're here today to pray with you. If you're not comfortable, you can fill out a prayer request. Those of you who are watching, if you're still watching, you can go online and fill out a prayer request. Let's see how many prayer requests we can get that say, help me call forth my true, authentic self. Because I don't know if we can have spiritual authenticity until we have personal authenticity. And that was one of the things that was happening yesterday. It was like I was putting the cart before the horse. I'm like, well, how can I talk about spiritual authenticity if I don't first have personal authenticity? That kind of just dictates everything else. Practices, ritual, and community, support. Find somebody. Ask your heart, who can I trust with this? See who it brings up. And then reach out to that person. Hey, can I talk to you? Or hey, I want to share something with you. I'm wondering if maybe you're going through it as well. There are many things we have to go through alone, but it doesn't mean you can't have somebody walking alongside you as you go through it alone. I mean, that's the whole point of right now. We are all walking. We're all walking, like all the women walking out of Walgreens. I know, that was a slip, but that's okay. Nikki Rowe. But that's true, though. The power of walking out of something that no longer is a match to who you are. That's how you say to yourself, I may not know all of who you are yet. I may be a bit of a distance from tapping into my authentic self, but guess what? I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk right towards you. Even though I don't know the way, I'm willing to stumble. Even though I'm scared to death, I'm going to do it anyway. That's the kind of thing we're in right now. And if you're not, that's okay too, because the train will come back around again. But I am here to support you. The practitioners are here to support you. This community is here to support you. There's a ton of things online that are there to support you, and you are worthy of it. That's probably what broke my heart the most, that this person felt they weren't worthy of help. That's a successful lie. That someone believes they're not worthy of help. You are worthy of help. You are worthy of a healing. You are worthy. You are enough. And if your mind is pushing back, put your hand on your heart and say, I know those are new sentences for you. I know that's a new belief for you, but guess what? It's the truth. Open the door, walk through it, and slam it behind you. And just say no more. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change except everything. Except everything. So let's take a deep breath and exhale. Let's take and if you're comfortable, you can leave your eyes open, closed, it doesn't matter. Whatever is your authentic experience of this moment. And I encourage you to perhaps put your hand on your heart today, those of you at home, those of you here, to remember where it is. When you put your hand on your heart, it's like you complete the circuit back to yourself. And our heart is so happy right now that we're recognizing it. And we're seeing its value in this new moment, in this new time, in this new place, in this new earth. And so in this moment that we call affirmative prayer, I am speaking the word for all of us. And my voice has a vibrational frequency to it that activates the laws of the universe. And that is what's happening right here and right now. And since we're all in the same field, like a pebble thrown into a pond, the entirety of the pond experiences the ripple effect of that one pebble. And that's exactly what this is right now. Prayer is a pebble in a pond that ripples out and touches everyone everywhere because we're all in the same thing together all at once. And so right here and right now, I speak this word. I speak this word of truth. That we are fully supported right now and that something is coming in, a power, a force, a love that is sweeping away the lies, sweeping away the false narratives. And we are returning to the truth of who we are. And the tears flow as they do with any reunion. A reunion with ourselves, wrapping our arms around ourselves, letting ourselves know we're here, we're not going anywhere ever again. Being willing to excavate and release the old narrative, the old stories, the lies that aren't the truth of who you are, and you know it. You know it more now than you've ever known it in your whole life. Like a snake that's shedding a skin, let's do it. Let's shed that old scaly skin of unworthiness and rip off those side view mirrors that keep us looking back and have ourselves pointed towards a better tomorrow where our authentic self is enough, is beautiful, is welcomed. And so to everyone everywhere that is going through this experience right now of shedding, know that you are loved. As people reclaim their bodies from the church and from religion, know that you are loved. Know that you are doing one of the most powerful gestures you could ever do. You are taking back your power. You're taking back yourself. You're taking back your soul and your heart from a world that mistreated it. And you now will be the one that treats it with love and respect and compassion and kindness. You will give it time, because this is what we are called to do right here and right now. I feel it in this room. I feel it with those who are watching. There is a shift happening right now, and why not? This is the whole point of the 1-minute miracle, that we don't need to wait, that we step out of time and space as a linear experience, and we realize, hey, we've been studying this stuff for 40 years. We are the guru we've been waiting for. We're the practitioner we've been waiting for. We are the thing itself. So let us accelerate this healing of unworthiness into worthiness. Let us heal the disconnect and connect with ourselves today. Let us take the yes to the walk home to who we truly are. And I do speak that word for Doug. Oh my gosh, he has shed his mortal coil, and he is folded back into that quantum field of pure energy and pure love. And I feel his presence right here and right now. Blessed to have that man in our community for so many years. Let us send some love and light to him as he makes his transition out of his body into the invisible realm of the spirit. Let us focus our thinking on Betty, who has been his wife and his caregiver for many, many years, and the experience she's having right now. As Linda said earlier, their children, their grandchildren, and all of us who know and love Doug, and send him on his way, knowing that he has folded back to source. And we can fold back to source right here and right now. We don't have to leave our bodies to do it. And that is what I am calling forth, declaring, and knowing today. So with a grateful heart that my authentic self is enough, we release this prayer, just like a farmer drops seeds into the soil. Doesn't pull up a chair and stare at the dirt until something blooms. No, it plants knowing that the seed has everything it needs, the soil has everything it needs, and some invisible law that that farmer cannot see is going to crack that seed open, draw it through the density of the dirt, and create the bloom. This is what we know prayer is. We accept it, we declare it, we anticipate it, we see it, we imagine our true authentic self, and we run towards it. We throw open our arms and we say, welcome home. And so it is. So it is. Thank you.